Well, it's day 3 of the United Nations General Assembly, with the conflict in Ukraine likely to continue to dominate the agenda. Of particular note, representatives from the European Union and China are due to take to the podium. Yesterday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky gave a tense address to the Security Council during a special session. He criticized the United Nations for failing to do enough to stop the war and called for Moscow to be stripped of its veto power, arguing that the right to veto makes the Council toothless. And Will Denslow joins us live from New York. Will, what can we expect from the UNGA today?
Well, another busy day with a number of heads of state, world leaders addressing the international community at the halls of the UN General Assembly. We're expected to hear a little later from Han Zheng, the Chinese Vice President. It'll be very interesting to hear whether the issue of Ukraine will come up during his address. We've known in recent days that Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, that of course is also here in New York, has said that the UN General Assembly was an opportunity to continue China and Russia's coordination ahead of a potential visit by Russia's President Vladimir Putin to Beijing in the coming weeks. Other key areas will, of course, be relations with the United States. We heard from US President Joe Biden speaking on Tuesday when he said he was looking to de-risk, not decouple from China. So when we hear from Beijing's representative, very interesting to hear their take on US Sino relations, also any mention when it comes to wider relations in the Asia-Pacific too. We're also expected to hear from Charles Michel, the European Council President of the European Union. This, of course, comes as there is some fractions we're seeing in the European Union, especially when it comes to Slovakia, Hungary, and especially Poland and their relations with Ukraine. This all comes from a spat with regard to Ukrainian grain. We've heard from Poland's Prime Minister speaking this week. He says that Poland will stop sending weapons to Ukraine. So some signs of discord among the European Union. This as a time that the EU will be hoping to demonstrate strength to the international community and show that the European Union is a leader on a number of key topics, not just with regard to the war in Ukraine, the role that the EU is playing, but also major global issues such as the use of AI and technology and its place in the world, as well as climate change.
Well, you mentioned climate change, and we've got the climate summit and a meeting on sustainable development goals of the SDGs. What other initiatives is the United Nations spearheading?
Yeah, there are a few other summits taking place. There will be a Security Council meeting to discuss the latest tensions in Nagorno-Karabakh, especially after the announcement of a ceasefire. We're also expecting a major summit, the Summit of the Future. Now, this is a ministerial meeting. That summit will be really the headline event of the UN General Assembly in 2024. However, this is an opportunity for world leaders to come together to lay out some of the objectives for that meeting, namely, as you rightly said, getting the Sustainable Development Goals back on track, as well as developing greater trust in international systems and among international leaders as a whole.
Well, thanks to Will Denslow speaking to us there from New York.